Say AAU?
No, LMS.
LMS? Oh, you're coaching LMS?
Yeah. And Gamache has varsity.
Good evening, and welcome to the April 10th meeting of the Litchfield Board of Selectmen. We've been in a paper review, which we've just come out of. We'd like to start this meeting off. Everyone rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
She is. All right, so we have a review and approval of consent items. We have an AP manifest for April 4th, 2023, in the amount of $201,389.32. And we have one for April 11th in the amount of $333,388.08. We have a payroll manifest for April 6th of $53,848.70. And for April 13th, $50,657.21. We have the February treasurer reconciliation. We have the intent to excavate Morgan Road, map 21, lot 18. We have a gravel tax levy, map 21, lot 18, in the amount of $2,962.82. We have a purchase order for Weston and Sampson in the amount of $75,000. We have the town clerk reconciliation for March of 2023. We have the tax collector reconciliation, March 2023. We have an approval of 2 veteran property tax exemptions and RSA 76:13, notice of final tax bill to the Board of Tax and Land Appeals. Is there anything anyone would like removed from there or to discuss on there? If not, we'll entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Weber,
Second.
second by Ms. Queenan. All those in favor, Mr. Gannon?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
Mr. Weber?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Motion carries 4-0. Should also mention that Selectman Lynch will not be here tonight due to health reasons. We hopefully have him at the next meeting. Any requests for additional items or other business tonight? Yes?
I would like to request for an additional business item to be added to tonight's agenda, to enter a non-public meeting.
Mhm.
RSA 91-A:3, Section 2B, the hiring of any person as a public employee.
Okay. That duly noted. Public input will occur no earlier than 6:45 PM. All right, under business, we have approval of the March 27th, 2023 minutes. Everybody look at them, and everybody okay?
I have one change.
You have one change.
Yes, page.
Kim's back. Yeah, girl.
Page 7, number 2, I guess 2A, under the committee reports for the capital improvement plan.
Mhm.
It meets monthly, not quarterly.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right, we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes with the said changes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 27th, 2023, with the correction noted by Ms. Queenan.
We have a motion by Mr. Weber.
I'll second.
Okay, second by Ms. Queenan. All those in favor, Mr. Weber?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
Mr. Gannon?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Motion carries 4-0. Next up, we have the appointment of Ed Clancy as interim fire chief effective April 29th. Ms. Queenan, we'll turn that over to you.
You gonna turn it over to me?
Ms. Klein.
Ms. Kleiner. Jesus, did it again.
The other Kim. Too many Kims.
Good evening. So after, as we all know, Mr. Nichols will be retiring as of April 29th. He has done a tremendous job over at the fire department. After a lot of discussion, it is our recommendation to you that you appoint Ed Glancy as the interim fire chief, effective April 29th. Ed has over 17 years as deputy fire chief. He is specially trained in fire leadership. He's a fire trainer. He's an instructor, advanced EMT, and has had the officer training, which makes him the prize and leader for this position. And we're very happy that he has stepped forward and agreed to do it in Doug's absence and with his retirement. Mr. Glancy is employed full-time, and he is giving up that for a little bit to step into this role. So they've worked the hours over there around per diem employees and on-call, and of course with Paul Kelly. So we think that this is in the best interest of the fire department and the town.
When you say they moved around the per diem hours and whatever, what does that entail?
So Mr. Glancy wouldn't be here every day, Monday through Friday, as Mr. Nichols is now. So we have on-call firefighters that will step in and work per diem hours while he isn't here, but he will be, around and reachable.
So the station will still be manned with at least 2 men during the day?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm kind of leaning towards having one of the full-timers step into this role. I know Doug's retiring. I'm curious to hear everybody else's thoughts on this.
I think Ed has the qualifications that are needed for it.
Yeah,
I mean,
he
I don't think
does.
anybody else could be able to go in and do that. I mean, he's given up hours of his corporate life
Yeah.
to come in and do it. And based off of that and the coverage we have, we find ourselves in this predicament, we have to do it, and we gotta put the best people forward. I think with his background, he's probably the best one for this job in the interim.
And I think it would give us some time to find a full-time fire chief, or I should say part-time fire chief, when we get to that point. I think Ed would be a good interim until we can pursue that avenue.
Kim?
I agree. I think he's proven himself, and I think he wants the job, or he wouldn't have taken it this far. And everybody knows who he is, it's easy to step into.
Could the fire chief cannot be a full-time position though, right? So
Correct.
if one of the full-timers
Have to
wanted
go
it, they'd have to
It would
step
have to
back.
go to a warrant before the voters to become a full-time position.
And we only have one other full-time employee at this
Yeah,
time, so.
That's correct.
So he'll still be a full one between the per diem and Mr. Glancy. We could get 2 full-timers that way, so we're covered from a firefighter standpoint and a paramedic standpoint.
I have to say that Mr. Glancy, even though Mr. Nichols has been the interim, Mr. Glancy has been assisting him
Yeah.
ever since the fire chief left in December.
Okay.
So Mr. Glancy knows the administrative work that needs to be done, as well as the structure of the fire station and any emergency procedures.
Yeah, and his corporate training really lends very nicely to that.
Yeah, he is a good man, I know that. I'm just thinking that in the best interest of the town, if it's, what we wanted somebody that was here full-time, or, and I'm good, the board, I think the board's pretty unanimous on this, so we'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to appoint Edward Glancy as the interim fire chief effective April 29th, 2023.
We have a motion from Mr. Weber,
Second?
second from Ms. Queenan. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Mr. Gannon?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
Mr. Weber?
I am an aye.
I'm also an aye. Motion carries 400. Right. Next up. Contract for farm lease at 296 Charles Bancroft Highway. This is the McQuestion piece, if I'm not mistaken, that I asked you to put on before.
Yeah, it's the lot right next to River Access, which we've been renting for many years in a row.
Yeah, I know Charlie's done a good job keeping that land up for us.
He's been a good steward of that land.
Yeah, he has, so. Has everyone had a chance to look at the contract? You're all good with it?
Yep.
Cool. All right, we'll entertain a motion to approve this.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract.
We have a motion from Ms. Queenie,
I'll second.
a second from Mr. Weber. All those in favor, Mr. Weber?
Aye.
Ms. Queenie?
Aye.
Mr. Gannon?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Motion carries 4-0. Next up, we have the purchase request for a diamond boom drum mulcher. This looks like a good one. We have a special guest tonight,
Hi, everyone.
Mr. Road Agent Brown.
Congratulations to everybody that was reelected.
Thank you, Kevin.
Chased her away.
Yeah, she has a tickle going and she didn't
Oh.
want to mess up the TV.
Okay, what is this?
All right, so we have the New Holland tractor.
Yep.
With the boom arm that has a flail
Yep.
mower on the end. It's an older machine. We bought it used. Jack bought it prior to me starting here. It's been welded, patched, rebuilt many, many times to the point where the head unit is no longer rebuildable.
Okay.
The type of head it has what they call a scythe head. It's got two blades, and it's more of a mower head that cuts grass on the side of the road. What I'd like to do is, it's down, the machine is down right now. The New Holland tractor runs, but we have no attachments to run it on.
It's been down since last year, right?
The end of last season, yeah, it ate up the bearings, I replaced them, tried rebuilding it, and it just ate them up again. So we need to replace the head. So we can either go with the same scythe type head, or I personally would like to go with the drum head. Now, the drum head has carbides that are offset and it mulches, and so you can take an 8-inch tree and knead it right down. I believe that's more what we need. If you guys all remember this winter, driving on the road, all the birch trees that come over, we need to be able to reach in and grind those up. The stuff at River Access, all that stuff, we'd be able to run right down there and cut that out. It's a considerable expense. It's $23,000 and change, but that's the cost of the head. There's a 4 to 8 week lead time. I propose, using the Public Works Trust Fund, whatever what are we calling it?
Yep.
Public Works Trust Fund to pay for that. If not, the machine's gonna stay, at the shop until we can come up with the money to buy another head.
Okay.
It's that simple.
So are you ordering two mulchers?
No,
It says
those
a
are
30?
those are
Two
two different prices, two different styles.
30 and a 50.
There's a 30 and a 50.
Which one are you ordering?
Honestly, I prefer the larger, but I have to talk to Diamond to make sure that we're counterweighted right for something of that size. We might have to go with the smaller. Either one would work. It would just be one more, half pass.
No matter which way you go, do you need the two kits?
I need the kits.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a different hookup for this.
Yep.
So I definitely need the two kits on the bottom. I believe it comes down to around $1,100-$1,200. But the heads are a couple $1,000s difference, depending upon the size.
Yeah.
But I would, I'm kind of coming to you as information. If you say, we're good with this, then I would reach out to Diamond further. I reached out to the two Diamond dealers that are local in the state, and I got no response whatsoever, no feedback. So I reached out to Diamond Direct.
Okay,
And about a week's time, they got me the information I needed.
okay.
But this is a tool that we could use. We'd use it quite a bit, but it's broken. Yeah.
This is the unit that's sitting in the old fire station now, right? The big-
No, this is the one that's up at our yard. It's a big blue New Holland tractor.
Yeah.
And it's got the boom arm that goes
Okay.
out, and you drive down the road with it, and
Yeah,
you can mow the side.
You could even
Yeah,
get
that's
canisters
the-
and trees and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
did we
See
give
that?
Yeah, we got the picture.
Okay, so you have the picture. So the tractor is basically at the end of that boom.
And how wide is that one, the old one? Is
Sorry?
that, how big is the old one? Is it a 50?
Big one's a 50-inch.
50 inch?
Yeah, but the new drum one is heavier. It's a different setup.
Yeah.
The drum itself is heavier, so I just, I want to make sure that our machine can handle something of that size rather than 30, but,
So the numbers they have here come down to like 352, but you'd probably want a little bit more than that just in case you get hit with tax if you have it out of state.
well, I'm worried about tax and freight,
Yeah.
so I would say 25 would probably
That's
cover
what I
us.
was
and
just thinking,
And if
yeah.
anything else, I could make up out of my budget, out of my equipment purchase line. You know what I mean? But I would say 25 would be safe.
I would say that if the machine can handle it, you go with the 50.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
Okay, the 30 if you had to, but the 50 would be the, and it's only
You just move-
$2,000.
you move
It's $2,000 difference. So,
Right.
I mean, you're talking almost twice the cut.
I mean, the other machine, the other head worked well, it just, it eats up the teeth and it really beats it up because it's not made for cutting, branches, it's made for cutting grass. So this would be, okay, so we can't cut the grass as well with this, so we'd have to weed whack more with the grass, but grass is easier to cut than, branches.
And what are your intentions with the old mower?
The old mower head it would be junk.
You gonna throw it-
Yeah, it would go to Dave. It would go to the metal pile. I mean, I would look and see if any of the bearings were like between the two, what kind of fittings, but, yeah. I mean, and I don't want you to, just jump right on and make a decision. You can come down and take a look at it. I can point it out and show it to you if you'd like. We have weld seams that are 3 inches across because you keep having to go back finding better metal. And it just beats itself to death.
We have to be able to trust you to make the right decisions for your department, so.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of a drum broom mulcher with retrofit not to exceed $25,000, the amount to be expended from the Public Works Trust Fund.
I will second that motion.
We have a motion from Mr. Weber and a second from Mr. Gannon. The only question I'll ask is you believe that's enough to take care of this?
I do. If, like I said, if not, Bob, I can take it out of, I have an $8,000 purchase,
Okay.
line, so if it's another couple $100.
I just have a question, just to educate myself. I can see what the pictures are doing,
Yeah.
but maybe for the public as well. What are we using that for usually, and why
So
is it
it's going down the side of a road, so all that underbrush that grows out, all the small pines and all the trees, this unit here will be able to go even further and be able to take down, trees up to 8 inches. It will actually be able to grind down trees down to 8 inches.
Okay.
Trust me, Jason Brennan loves the idea.
Being a geek, I watched a video on it. I saw
did
it. I
you
had
watch
to
it?
see
Yeah.
what it did.
Down on it, and
Yeah.
it'll grind a tree right down.
So the old,
They're really good.
the old mower head
Snowdrop and
has,
stuff,
I've
everything
seen
comes
them.
in,
They just
so
go
it
down
goes
the
in, they
tree.
can push it all
Yeah,
back.
okay.
the old mower head has blades, and it's made for cutting grass on the side of the roads, not so much the trees. It can cut up to 2 or 3 inches, but it beats the blades.
And then it leaves branches and sticks and short sticks and
This'll
sharp
just-
sticks.
This will leave mulch.
Yeah.
So do you do it on public, yeah, obviously you do it on 3A and Albuquerque, do you
No,
do it
not
on
3A.
other?
Not
You don't do
on
3A,
state roads.
okay,
Not
so.
state
We'll
but
do it, we'll do it up
Better
at the boat
access.
launch, because that's our property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's about it. We can't really do anything in 3A, but we'll run down Albuquerque, uphill, well, not even Hillcrest,
Town
but.
roads.
Town
you
roads,
know,
it's neighborhoods.
Pinecrest Talent Page,
Okay.
any corners.
Perfect.
If you go by the river access during the summer, you'll see if you ever go in and you try to leave, it's very hard to see heading north because whatever that is that's growing grows so
Sweet, yeah.
thick and
Yeah,
hard.
it just grows back, it grows back like crazy every year we're down there.
It's gross,
With
yeah.
chainsaws and weed whackers.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll call a vote. Mr. Gannon?
Aye.
Ms. Greener?
Aye.
Mr. Weber?
I am an aye.
I'm also an aye. Motion carries 400, sir.
Thank you all, I appreciate it.
Much.
Make a list of what road you want me to hit first.
We'll
give you a call.
That's your department. If we see anything, we'll let you know.
I know you will.
Thanks,
All right.
Kev.
Just a quick update, I already rode around with Eddie Small from Continental, looking at some of the roads that we're thinking about paving. Within a week, I'll have a quote, so we'll know
Yep.
what we can pave, what we can't pave. Other than that, that's where we're at.
Okay. All right. I have to get a hold of you tomorrow, because I can't remember where I saw it today, but I saw a water line in the middle of the road that was washed out around it.
Okay,
Like, the main is like that big where the cap is, and then you could see where the pavement had washed out.
okay. yeah.
Um,
If you run it over again, text me.
All right.
Thank you,
Pretty sure it was
everybody.
Albuquerque, but I'm not positive.
Oh, there's a portion of Albuquerque I'm looking to pave this year,
Yeah,
so,
yeah, okay.
so we should be.
Good.
All right.
When I
Take
see it,
care.
I'll let
Take
you
care.
know. Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you. So now we have the school resource officer discussion. We had received an email from the chairman of the school board asking if they could hire a security firm, whereas we're short-staffed right now, and since we have the chief here, he's the one to talk to us about this, but where we're at on this, so I said we put it up for discussion tonight. So if you'd like to come on.
So I did check with town legal.
Mhm.
There is significant concern. There's two pieces, really, that we should remember. The original warrant article back in 2022
Mhm.
was for a school resource officer.
Yep.
School resource officer is a certified officer, and that's one of the reasons I asked Mr. French to be here. What is being proposed by the school board is not a school resource officer.
Okay,
It is a security guard, and that is of significant difference.
yep.
The other thing is that the reason that it has not been filled is because we have openings within the police force.
Mhm.
It is not out of lack of trying. Across the state, there are openings in the police forces. The other thing is there is a MOU between the school department and the police force. This MOU does not require a school resource officer.
Okay,
This is a plan, a document that speaks to how the police force will react and work with the school district to
Okay.
keep our students safe and to deal with any issues that arise.
Mhm.
But this does not call for an SRO either. So as far as meeting the original warrant article, what
Mhm.
is being proposed would not do that.
okay. That was, I mean, that was one of the concerns I had. The other one was, if we were to put somebody over there, who would be paying for it? This was a town warrant that was approved by the voters for the town to supply this position, and I know we haven't been able to. And I think from reading the email was that they wanted to hire somebody and have us give them the money, basically. And I didn't feel comfortable with that.
I mean, I see us no way of doing that since we haven't been funded in that way. I mean, if they want to go off and hire a security guard in their own dime,
Yes.
they're more than welcome to go do that.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Kim?
What does that do about liability, though? If you bring in a third party?
Yep.
Security
That's
guard.
between
Yeah, I
the
think-
school. I mean, it's out of our purview.
And
Right.
that SRO is a part-time one, right? Was this a part-time SRO or was
No,
this
so
full-time?
the original warrant article changed the part-time school resource officer to a full-time position.
But between two schools, going back and forth, was that it?
Yes, they were gonna cover the schools back and forth, if I remember correctly. And the reason we brought it in was we also wanted to bring back the DARE program
Yeah.
and try to, put some more resources back in with the school. The department was fully staffed, I believe, or we might have been down just one on military leave at the time the warrant went out.
Yep.
So we wanted to hire one more so we could be completely staffed and cover the schools.
Okay, so it's a full-time person.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm just coming up to speed
Yeah.
myself. All right.
I mean, so the
And
position's
between the
still
two
open, and we'd love to be able to hire it and, help out the students.
But
It's
most,
faculty over there, but it's,
I mean-
getting the person.
most of the reasons that the police department put together for this warrant can't be satisfied by a security officer. For example, creates positive interactions with police. Security guard's not gonna do that.
Yep.
Is a role model and a mentor. Teaching and coaching, informal counseling, long-lasting relationships, critical incident preparedness. I mean,
It was trying to take one of our police
Yeah.
officers and integrate them within the school system, so now that the children in the facility feel more connected with the police and there's more learning. And I know in the past, I think it was Sergeant Savage, he was actually one of
was
the
the
coaches.
original. He was the
He was the
original
original,
one.
and he was one of the sports coaches. So he really got integrated in there, and the kids had a great liking to him, and there was a great rapport between the police and the student body at the time. So I think we were trying to get back to that part of it with the warrant article.
But I think for
Looking for the original.
the police department to fund a security officer, I think Mr. French can speak better to the concerns for that.
His face says it all.
It definitely would be.
Did everybody see the email?
Yeah.
The
Yes.
email chain? Okay,
Yeah.
from the beginning to the end? Okay, then I won't send it. All right. Okay, so everyone's up to snuff. Okay. Hi, Chief French, how are you?
Evening. How are you, sir?
Yeah, pretty good.
So what brings us to this situation is the staffing problem that we have.
Yep.
And that everybody across the state has. We have been very aggressively trying to fill our vacancies. We have to do street coverage first, and then everything else. We met with the school back in February. We outlined our situation with the superintendent and all of the principals. We indicated to them where we were at and what we felt that we could do, provided them names of people to reach out to. So we have been extremely responsive from all of the buildings for all of the situations.
Yep.
In addition to that, when patrol is not answering calls, we have them stopping in at the building, visiting with the administration and things of that nature.
Okay.
Law enforcement officers are professionals, highly trained, and they're highly trained in a number of different aspects of enforcing the law, investigating crime, and making arrests.
Mhm.
Security officers are designed for protection of property, protection of individuals. Some are armed, some are not. Their selection process is significantly different than ours is. And their training is, from what I can find, much less than what we have here. I think what police officers bring to the schools, even in the capacity we're doing it now, is the ability to get information and be preventative. So if you've established some relationships, which we have, with teachers, administrators, and students, getting some information ahead of time allows us to go into a preventative mode. Not so sure your security guards are going to be able to do those types of functions for you. I can assure you, as soon as we are able to get some staff, we'll go back to where we should be, but right now, we just can't do it. And there's one other difference. Security guards, some are armed and some are not. The ones that are armed do have to go through a annual qualification,
Yeah.
but they don't go through the additional tactical training that police officers would.
Well, there's no question that the police would be the number one choice to be in the schools. I get what the school's trying to say too. But I'm glad for the clarification, because that makes it a little bit clearer. So the next question that I will be asked at Budget Committee is the monies that have been approved for this position. Are we holding on to that money, or is that being used in overtime, or what?
It was cut.
The
So,
money that the voters approved for this position 2 years ago.
so I think it's important to note that this was a 2022 warrant article.
Yep.
So it would be different if we were in 2022 and this money was within the line and we weren't spending it on the warrant article. We are in 2023, it's in the police regular budget, which is under the authority of the department head and the board of selectmen. So there's a part of the statute that's very clear on this, that the budget committee does not have the authority to question the expenditures that are made within the year. That is the authority of the Board of Selectmen. To answer your question more directly, yes, I have a feeling, and we are concerned, and we are watching the budget very closely, that once you get into the summertime, when you have the very limited staff that you have now taking vacations, we're gonna be forced to pay this other staff overtime, and we're gonna get into a very costly situation. Not to mention, the budget committee had significantly cut this budget at a time when we knew we had these personnel problems.
They took $100,000 up for one individual.
Right, and then cut other line items, the community detail line, that was cut. So it's not as if we aren't providing police officers to these, critical events that they need on the police budget. So, whether it's a high school game or a high school event that these police officers have had to go report to, that's coming out of their budget already, and that line was cut. So, we realize the concern, and we realize the school, board is stretched as well. And, I did speak with Dr. Jetty, he called, and, his staff is working on overtime. Our police officers are working overtime, double time, I mean, right around the clock, and we can't thank them enough. But we do think you'll get into a situation where this budget has to be watched very closely.
The other line that was cut,
Yeah.
the other line that was cut was the overtime line,
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
so.
And I'm not, and I'm not trying to stir up a hornet's nest or anything. I'm just saying that members of the budget committee will be asking me these questions. So I'm gonna just defer them to this meeting and Ms. Kleiner's remarks. So, there's no question you guys are stretched paper thin, and hopefully you can get the people you need.
Yep. And to the credit of the current staff, they're rising to the occasion.
We've got a
really
good
are.
force here.
Yep.
We've had a
But
good force.
concern is you're gonna burn them out.
Yeah,
That's what I'm worried about, and
Yeah.
that's what I've got to manage.
Yeah.
I think we're trying, but as Ms. Kleiner said, come summer,
yep.
it's really going to be a
Work-life
challenge
balance,
for us.
yes.
A lot of planning.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Kim?
I just have a general question. Is it common for schools to hire security guards? Does that happen? Have you ever heard of that happening? I understand why they're asking it,
No.
but
Great question, because Superintendent Jetty asked me, because I sat on this National School Board, and yes, they have a security guard at the high school. He's not a police officer. He's what I would say as very effective for what he does. But he is employed by the school district and paid by the school district. And does, should anything arise that needed a real professional capacity, he would be on the phone to the National Police Department.
So if they decided to go and hire somebody, would that violate the MOU with the police?
I don't think so.
No,
No, you just wouldn't classify him as-
Outside of the town.
Yeah, you wouldn't classify him as an SRO, he'd just be,
Just be security.
Yeah.
But then if the time came where we were able to obtain a new SRO, then he would automatically, or she would be automatically placed back at the school. And then it'll be up to the school to decide if they want
To keep the
SRO
additional-
plus
Yeah,
added
Correct.
security.
yeah, okay.
It might be worthwhile to do a contract employee because you only have a couple months really left of
True.
school. And then we have the summer and they're off and let's see what September brings, right? But they are.
Yeah.
I think you have to be really careful when it's a school district. And I did say this to Superintendent Jetty. The gentleman we have in Nashua is tremendous. But he's coached, he's spent a lot of time around children,
Yeah.
so it's a difficult position.
Did the school say if they were willing to spend the money out of their budget to support a security officer? Has it come to that discussion
I think they were hoping to use the budgetary line that we had.
from the police department?
In the correspondence I saw, there was nothing to that intent.
Okay. All right, so I think we stand pat for now, and hopefully you get some officers in.
Yes.
And we can get somebody over there at the two schools, because there should be two. Personally, I'd like to see one at all three, but, you know, that's a dream. So, okay.
And we'll continue to do our response, we'll continue to do our stop-ins
Check-in,
as activity allows.
Okay, perfect. We appreciate you coming in, chief.
No problem, thank you.
Thanks, and thanks for all your efforts.
Yes. Everything you guys.
Enjoy your evening, folks.
You too, be well.
Right. Since it's 7:05, we'll open it up to public input. Since everybody has left the building, we'll close public input at 7:05. Next up, we have tabled discussion from before. Steve, you weren't on the board at this point.
No, it was not.
This was a request for impact fees at the middle school. As everyone knows, they have a project over there going on, and to get monies to fund this project. They put in windows a couple of years ago, and they were paid out of their budget. But now they want to take impact fee money and reimburse themselves for that 2 years later. And we weren't in favor of it, but our position was, I think, you guys can correct me on this, is that if their budget had failed, they would have been under a real constraint.
Mm-hmm.
And we would have considered releasing the funds in that case. But whereas everything that had passed, I don't feel like they're in the same boat that they may have been in if their monies were cut, because they stood to lose a lot of money if their article failed for the budget. So, I'm gonna maintain my position that I don't support releasing the monies unless it's a new improvement that comes up, and not, something that was done 2 years ago and paid for.
That seems to be a common, what can we use impact fees for? I know that on the rec, we struggled with it for years. And can you pay in arrears is another question. And you're putting new windows in an old school, is that?
So, as much as I believe in the same standpoint that Bob has, that it's almost double dipping because it was in its budget and not, we did have legal chime in on it. And they have said it's a legal use of impact fees.
Really? Okay.
So based on that, I think our hands are tied and we have to release them. We don't like what they're being used for, but if we don't release them, I feel their attorney's gonna call our attorney's gonna come to us and say, you legally have to release these funds. I do agree with Mr. Leary that it was in the budget and now we're paying for it in arrears. What I understand is impact fees are a little different when it comes to a school because they're supposed to be for growth. But I think the original school was built for growth and therefore repairs for the school come under that growth. And that's why they're able to use the funds. So why we all sitting here may not like the mechanism of how they're being used, I think what it comes down to is legally we have to release them.
Well, I think legal said it is a permitted use of the funds. I didn't think she said we had to.
So it is a permitted use of the funds,
Yep.
and in her, review, she found nothing that would prevent them from being released. So there is agreed that the way the budget was presented, this would have been funded, the entire lease payment would have been funded using what they considered to be significant energy savings and other things that they had calculated. This is for a lease payment that is due in a week, I believe. It's due this April. So this is not for their next budget. This is for this budget.
usually when somebody requests impact fees for something, say like the windows, they say we would like the $52,000 to replace the windows, okay? We would approve it, they would do the project, they would bring us an invoice, and then we would release the money. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Okay, this is something that was done 2 years ago and has already been paid for. So the taxpayers have already paid for this. Now they want more taxpayer dollars for the same thing. That's my problem here. I mean, the board can vote any way they want, and I'll support the vote, but I am not in favor of giving them the same money twice.
Yeah, I think the way they're wording it now is it's not for the windows, it's to offset the first payment of the lease. So they're changing on what they want to use the funds for, instead of saying they're gonna use it for the windows of one that happened a couple of years ago. Now they want to use the funds to offset part of their first payment.
Now, is that still a legitimate use of impact fees?
I believe that's the one that
It is.
was
It is.
legal.
This is what legal actually reviewed. She reviewed the lease, she reviewed the project, as well as reviewing the actual work that was done, and agreed, Mr. Weber has it correct. It's significant improvements to the building to sustain future use and future growth, is how they worded it. But unless the Board of Selectmen has a legitimate reason to deny the use of the funds, it was raised for this purpose. Right, and they've said it's a legitimate purpose, so there's no, I'm not sure what legal ground we would have.
I remember this, Jay Mancara chimed in as well, and it looked like it was, you closed 1 year, and now you're trying to get the money in again. And I didn't like that, but I understand legally, and it looks like it is a different purpose now. It's their money.
You know, and that's the struggle, you know, and our biggest question is, first of it, is it legitimate use? Second, can anybody ever come back, fight it, win, and then we have to repay it out of our budget? So those are the struggles that we have.
The last line of this first paragraph, where it says, "These impact fees will be used to offset part of this first payment." This first payment was paid for by the taxpayers in March, when they voted to approve the budget.
Last March?
Last March, and again this March. Their warrant article was, and this year it rolled into the budget, that was approved by the voters. That money was already destined to them.
That was July, right? Because their
Yeah.
budget starts in July, so it was voted in March.
Yeah.
So the monies would have been available from July to
Yeah.
June 30th.
Which the
Right,
first
this year.
payment, yeah,
And that's the first payment is now.
That's right.
correct.
Yeah.
So that money has already been approved by the taxpayers and paid out.
Agreed, agreed it was approved by the taxpayers.
Because what's happening is they've
Yeah.
had cost overruns in other areas.
Oh, 100%.
Designing
Oh, 100%.
and all the architect fees and everything, which to me is not part of the scope. There's just so many issues with this that it's screaming this is wrong. It's just screaming that it's wrong to me. This money's already been given to them, and they spent it elsewhere. Now they want this money to make up that. I don't like this at all.
Yeah, I understand, you're right, the taxpayers approved it, it would have been placed in their budget, right?
In
So-
July,
In
yes.
July, so
Yep.
starting in this budget year.
Yep.
It would, the money would have been there. And from what I understand, and I think this is even what, legal counsel reviewed, they estimated a certain amount of savings, energy savings, within this budget
Correct.
year, so that by the time they would have gotten to April now, when the lease payment was actually due, they would have had that. And they didn't get those savings,
Because the solar never got up,
right?
the construction got delayed, So now all the savings, which I still didn't think was right, that they were taking money from electricity and gas and oil and saying, we're gonna save that money, so we're gonna deduct it from the project. You should have raised and appropriated the whole entire project.
Yeah.
And
they
then
still-
the budget committee, who's to say they're gonna give you those lines anyways, right?
Yep.
If you get savings there, they're gonna say, we're gonna cut these lines.
Yep.
So, I mean, my whole problem is I always thought they should have raised and appropriated the whole entire value of the project.
Yeah.
You know, but then it would have had to been a bond, and they were very scared
No,
it
they
was gonna
weren't
be a
gonna do a
bond.
bond. They
No.
weren't gonna, they, no matter what the cost, they were not going to do a bond.
Because they didn't think they'd get 2/3.
Yes, and he said that, the superintendent said that they didn't feel like if they were asking for an elementary school, that asking for two bonds at the same time would pass. So this was going to be a purchase lease no matter what.
Now, I think, you know, there's been some discussion that what they are asking for is similar to what the town is doing. And I don't agree there. So,
How do they
we
make-
had we
How
had
did they
money.
equate the two? Do you remember?
They said, well, you're using, impact fees to pay your lease on the fire station. Yes, but the difference is, the budget committee cut that.
Mhm.
So, the question was raised to us, could we use impact fees for the fire station, which we have
Mhm.
before? And we said yes to the budget committee that we could, so they cut our line. So now we have to.
Had to, yes,
right?
yep.
I mean, I think that's a little different because we never had that money raised and appropriated.
Yep.
And so I just want to be a little clear on that because I tried to make that point. Here, I think they didn't have the savings, and I understand, I think looking back, you should have gone a year, maybe waited for the savings.
Plus, I mean, installing solar in the winter, you're not gonna get anything out of it in the wintertime.
You'll get some, but you won't get the same output.
You won't get the
Yeah,
savings that they were
because the sun's
estimating.
at a different angle and so forth. So you'll get
Less
some, but
of-
you won't get as much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And until you really get your
You need a
battery
sun-
storage in there, you really don't reap the
Yeah.
benefits
Yeah.
of anything unless the sun's out, you can use it then, because you're not storing any of the extra power anyway,
Yeah.
it just goes to waste.
Yeah.
So until the whole entire system is functional, you're never gonna get those savings from it.
But you're trying to claim savings before you have the system installed.
Correct, and that was, I mean, they were trying to look at the ideal world, that everything was gonna happen at the right time, and these lines were gonna come over, and if you live in the world of construction, you know that that does not happen.
And all those points were brought up during
100%,
discussions, and
just
we
sat
were
there and
assured,
deliberative.
we were assured by the man in charge that we were ready to go. We had, everything was in place, it's a fixed cost, it's this. And it turned out to be just a smokescreen to get this done. But again, I'm saying, the taxpayers have already given them this money. And
It's an interesting vote, 5-0, because we have some savvy people on that board, right? It was approved 5-0,
On what,
on what?
that last line, right?
yeah, on January 18th?
Yeah, that was
That was
my
the-
board.
that was the old
election.
board.
That was the
Yeah.
old
Before the
board.
I
election.
know, but we still have someone there. that
Yeah.
Yeah, we still
is-
did, but
Yeah.
Who knows business and finance. So, it's just an interesting, that's what I'm saying, that they went along, yeah.
I think we as a board should have a discussion with Laura. Just so we all fully understand that she's looking at it the same way we all see it.
This is on hold, right?
Yeah, it's on
Okay,
the.
it's on
It's still been, we tabled it last
That
time,
there's a
and
payment due.
There's a payment due next,
And again, I mean, we requested the superintendent come in and talk to us and answer questions, and the board at the time said no. They sent two people that didn't have the answers to the questions that we had, so it really didn't do any good, because the one person that had the answers wasn't here. Again, this bothers me, so I think putting it to legal is,
Yep, I would agree with that.
we can bring it up again in our next meeting.
so I'll make a motion that we table it once again, under legal review, to have a discussion, so we all know exactly where the legal input is coming from.
ask legal counsel to be available on the 24th.
Yeah,
Please.
if you could. And I mean, if we have to start a little early to help out their
I will-
schedule, I'm
I will
sure.
second that motion.
We have a motion from Mr. Weber and a second from Mr. Gannon. Any more discussion here? No? Okay, all those in favor, Mr. Gannon?
Aye.
Ms. Queen?
Aye.
Mr. Weber?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Motion carries 400. We'll look forward to Laura's comments here. Okay. Next up, if I can get my computer to work. Ooh, this looks like a good one. Permit fee request fundraiser for Boston Children's Hospital, Litchfield Police and Fire have approved April 16th, 9 to 11 of a 5K road race. Ms. Kleiner, do you have input on this?
So this is the National Honor Society,
Okay,
who will be completing a 5K fundraiser for Boston Children's Hospital. They have the signature of their advisor. They've provided the date, 5/16 at 9 o'clock to 11. Police department and the fire department have signed off with approval. And this is, they expect about 100 participants. And it will move from Campbell High School to Pinecrest and back
okay.
on the bike path, not the road.
And it looks like police and fire are gonna use on duty, so there'll be no cost or overtime
Right.
for it.
I think they've been doing this every year, haven't they? They've done it for a few years, or there is some road
No, that
race
was a
there.
different one. That
That's
was the, usually in September, October.
Okay.
That's the Litchfield Police 5K,
Yeah.
which they didn't
They
do
didn't do
last year.
no, they canceled.
Canceled at the last minute last year, yeah.
Well, I knew there was one for a youth or something last year, because I went over to it.
Oh, that was probably
Is that
the Kids on the Run?
I think you're right. I think you're right. Very
Yeah,
good.
because they do that. That started up again, or is starting up now.
Okay. I think you're right there. Okay. Very good. I like this. Anybody have any concerns or anything?
No.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to permit the fee request for the Litchfield Police Department, for the 5K fundraiser for Boston Children's Hospital on April 16th from 9 AM to 11 AM.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. The only question I'd have is the permit fee. Is there a fee for this?
No, because
That's
they're
what
a
they call it,
nonprofit.
Because they're non-profit. Okay, and if
Correct.
there was, I would suggest that we waive it. So, okay, very good. Then we'll take a vote. Mr. Gannon?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
Mr. Weber?
I am an aye.
I'm also an aye. Motion carries 400. All right, next up. Oh, update on testing of PFOAs and St. Gobain site. Additional remediation plan due May 5th, 2023. Ms. Kleiner.
So, we are receiving now, pretty regular updates from New Hampshire DES. Significant enough that I believe maybe we should consider, creating a page off of our webpage for our residents to go and view, these types of correspondence that are coming to the town. This one in particular is testing that was done on the St. Gobain site. So they have runoff of their, that has been tested, and it's been in the past a site where significant PFOAs were being discharged and running into the river, in the stormwater. They tested and they submitted a updated report to NHDES. It's significantly lower, but as DES says, it's still there. So what DES has asked for is a remedial action plan, and that is due to the state on May 5th.
Okay.
So, you know, while I think many people have thought that the initial contamination site may be under control. I think it's important that DES has said it's significantly better, but we still expect more action to take place. So it's these types of letters and normal correspondence telling us now, because they're starting to do a significant amount of testing, as well as have discussion with St. Gobain and WSP on what initial or more remedial testing will be needed in the future. So instead of our residents searching through the DES website, which can sometimes be challenging if you're looking to find this particular project, I thought we'd create a section on the website where our residents could read these. But we will bring forth to the board as soon as DES reviews that May 5th communication.
I think it's a great idea. That way people can just go on and look and they can read what's going on. I support this 100%.
And I think we have significant information now as far as Pennachuck as well, and Pennachuck's project up Hillcrest, which directly relates to the PFOAs, and we can incorporate that type of information.
This is public information?
It's all public
Okay,
information.
I just wanna make sure, because I'm looking, say, who goes to, you know, I just wanna make sure.
Yes,
'Cause this is after their scrubbers and all the modifications, right?
yes.
And a lot of people are under the belief that, it's no longer an issue. They stopped and they're scrubbing the air, but it's still an issue.
It's still an issue.
Yeah.
And it's still in the ground, so it's a long-term process to
Yep.
remediate it from the ground.
Mhm.
I mean, we'll never see it.
No.
Right.
And they just
Okay.
can continue to add more.
Yep. Okay, so you're gonna take care of that
We will, yes, we'll,
with Mr. Brunel, who's behind the mic over there?
Give John more work.
Yeah. So next up, we have town administrator report.
so we are working now on the stormwater grant, which requires significant, work from John again, as we create a GIS account and work with, our engineers at CEI. They will be uploading significant stormwater data that they have already accumulated from last summer, when they worked with Mr. Brown. And then we will get crews out, with Mr. Kevin Brown, to look at all of our outfalls and start charting things. So that is already underway. We are working, as a team on what we call a surf plan. So all of our vehicles and heavy equipment, we're charting out the cost, the replacement cost, and a timeline for those vehicles. And we hope to bring that to CIP's next meeting, which we've just learned to be the 20th. Legislation, I know I had updated you a lot last meeting, so I won't go over that again, except to say that the House passed the budget. And so a lot of the things that we went over our last meeting did pass, especially the retirement. So the group 2, where you will actually turn back pension reform and restore all of Group 2's benefits, meaning calculate their overtime and all that into their calculation. That did pass the House, but the state has agreed, at least for the first 2 years, to pick up the cost. So that made it out. There's 2 bills that are of some concern that just were approved by the House and have moved to the Senate. One has a hearing tomorrow morning. And this is on the health officer. So the bill, 154, will actually take away the Board of Selectmen's authority to set ordinances for health safety. And it will force those to go to the legislative body, which is our voters in Warren. So a lot of people are up speaking very heavily against this bill, because when you're dealing with issues like groundwater contamination, septic system breaches, flooding, you can't wait till next town meeting. I mean, but it did pass the House, so it's of concern. And the other one that is interesting to us, because should this one pass the Senate like it did the House, it will impact our personnel policy. So the bill, actually, House Bill 74, requires that any employer with more than 15 employees, if an employee is in good standing, you must pay out their earned time, which is vacation, not sick, but any vacation or earned time. We incorporated a section into our personnel policy last June that said if you did not give notice, that would cut 50%.
Yep.
The employee would be in good standing, and we can't use the fact that they didn't give notice to pull them out of good standing. So should it pass the Senate, that part of our policy would have to come out. And it's not anything that the NHMA or other towns are speaking against. So I would say.
Well, I know why we did that, and it was, I mean, it was a well-thought plan. So, I mean, do we institute a use it or lose it policy? So we don't have somebody saving up 3 months, 4 months of time before leaving, and
It's a huge liability to
kills
us.
That kills
Yeah,
us.
It really does.
It's a huge liability. So
So,
I took the personnel policy, and I asked what department heads would like to look at it and give recommendations. And Ms. White, Ms. Brand, and Mr. French asked if they could take it. And so they just finished, giving some markups, and, interestingly enough, they did not address that particular section. I do think it is a liability
huge.
that no town, I mean, in all towns and cities have it, that they are never gonna get out from underneath. But what you'd wanna look to is putting in a new clause affecting employees that come in, right? So all employees hired after June 1st or whatever, the only caution I would say is it's hard right now to hire municipal workers, because even as the governor has said, and as he shows in his budget, you are 10 to 12% lower pay than the private sector across the board.
That is true, but there are benefits to working the municipal.
There is. I mean, could we move to something that's a PTO, but sweeten the PTO part, that doesn't get us the same liability as earned time, but it gives it more of an incentive to hire people? The biggest struggle is gonna be when we go to negotiate the police union contract.
Yes.
That's where the majority of the liability, I believe, lies. Is
What are
right
they
there.
allowed to bank now?
Whatever.
There's
We have a limit,
two
right?
tiers.
There's two different tiers, yeah.
Yeah, because it was already addressed once, so that, newer officers can't accrue as much.
Lost
Um,
contract, yeah.
You're right, and that it will be a significant negotiation item with them. The other thing is, when you add the incentive of buyout,
Yeah.
you sweetened that pot,
Yes. Because
right?
the other
That only
concern
made
would
it
be,
worse.
he's already saying he's low on resources, and now if we start telling him, or, you bring someone in, and you're not allowed to carry over your vacation, but you have to work as much as you do, what are they, they're in a catch-22.
Yeah, the tough part is you're understaffed, so you can't take vacation time,
Right.
but you're being told you have to
Have
go
to
take
take
your vacation time,
Or you're gonna lose it.
or you lose it. So that's, I mean, that's the tough spot in that whole thing.
And in the past, we have taken special situations and granted somebody to be able to bank their time.
Bank more than the
Than-
allotted,
than
as
the
long as they
allotted.
use it by the first quarter of next
Yeah.
year, and things to that extent, just so we can help keep everything going.
Has a buyout ever been considered where you can only carry so much, and then anything over that you have to pay out?
As,
I don't think,
I don't think, not that I've seen from any documents.
we bought out one contract over time,
Okay.
because there was so
So
much time. If the individual had left all at once, I don't think we could have handled it.
Yeah.
So, many boards ago, even before I was on it, they did a staggered buyout of the individual over 3-4 years.
Yeah.
So it wasn't such an impact when the individual left.
Some municipalities have, instead of completely taking it away, they have cut down the number of hours that, you can accrue, right? So, and even done so, over a 5-year period, you're gonna go down. All that does is cause your overtime expense to be higher in that year, cause they're gonna take it. and
Yep.
You end up
rightfully
always
so.
chasing yourself.
You are chasing.
That's why I've never been a fan of earned time. Because it's a huge liability to the town. Probably one of our biggest liabilities.
Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, next to that and pension is.
Are the two big ones.
too big.
Mhm.
But it's,
So would it be something worth investigating or looking into? I think.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what type of feedback they come back with, but you said they didn't touch that clause within it.
no, when I asked and they said no. It's a tough one to deal with, and
I mean, do we start looking at a warrant article to fund that,
Separate, yeah.
to fund the payouts, right? So, so we have a pot of cash sitting somewhere in case we ever get hit, but I mean, it's a,
so what if the
a
warrant
tough
article
sell.
doesn't pass?
but we're still in the same predicament,
Right.
right? I mean, nothing ventured, right? What are we gonna do?
Right.
That's a tough sell to
I
the
mean,
public.
It is, but I mean, it's.
It's worth a shot.
But the whole thing is you have to explain what the liability would be if we get caught in this way.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
you don't want your town to go bankrupt.
Well, hopefully everyone in the town doesn't leave at the same time, but,
But,
you know,
not.
it's one thing to consider having a paid time off, right?
mhm.
And looking at the wage plan that, we're pretty much almost all the way through. Now we're actually creating the new wage scales. And maybe it's cheaper to actually fund the wage plan
Mhm.
and move it to paid time off
Yeah.
versus the earned time with the continued liability. We're really coming up, there's different positions that are coming all over the chart.
And I think we're still gonna carry some liability because of the history on the older employees.
Correct.
But at least moving forward, we can start trying to mitigate some of that liability by moving to a structure, something like that.
Now, is this common, I assume this is a common issue all other towns are facing as well. So if they do go to a PTO or something, it's gonna be a common, because the other concern will be, putting back to, Chief French, is he's struggling to get people. And that could be one of those things where people like, if I go to the next town over, I get all my earned time. I get here, I only get PTO time.
Yes.
But then you
So-
have to offset it by the compensation, the hourly wage, right? So they have to make it, a judgment, what would they rather have?
That is the difficulty is, so at least there's many that kind of consider that like a savings, like a bank, you know, like a savings account.
Yeah, that's what it
And,
is.
Yes.
you know, there are other ways to do that. We have a 457, you know, there are other ways that you can.
Then you have other employees that use every last hour. Then you get some that use it and go do a detail.
But it is a work-life balance.
It really
because
is,
if
yeah.
you're not using
They're in a
it-
stressful life over there.
That's right. I get concerned of the people that aren't taking enough
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, we have to keep an eye on that.
So, but that's it's interesting that that is coming up, now, as an item.
Yep.
April 21st is the municipal managers, meeting.
Okay.
So we all go up to Ashland, New Hampshire.
Ooh,
Why
marvelous.
Ashland, I don't know, but,
It's a nice town.
um,
It's a nice town.
and so we will be having various presentations, and one of them is Health Trust. So they'll be speaking to us about Health Trust plans.
Good.
Pennachuck's annual meeting, we did receive an invitation for anyone who would like to go on May 6th at 9 a.m. at their office, the old courthouse in Nashua. And then, I already talked to you about the website and starting a water page, so we'll get started on that.
Very good. All right, next up. Is that it? Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
Next up, we have selectmen reports. Mr. Weber, representing the Recreation Commission.
At our last meeting, we did the election of officers. Peter Ames is now the chairman of the Recreation Commission. Andy Ruggles is vice chair, and Judy Brennan is the secretary. We recently opened up John Bryant River access now, so it is open for people to go.
Nice.
Pickleball courts are getting closer. They've all been paved, all of the site work's been done to it, they're being painted. Then after that, we'll be putting up the fencing and they'll be good to go, so we're ahead of schedule and
It's looking good.
they're looking really good. Natticook Lawn, who does all our recreation maintenance, they dug the new well over at Dara.
Yep.
They ended up having to go down about 600 feet,
Yep.
but they ended up with over 30 gallons per minute.
Yes. They were there today working at their
Yep.
sprinklers, I think.
They were cleaning up, doing the sprinkler checkout, so.
You may want to remind Mr. Ames tomorrow, Chairman Ames, to motion because the contract extension that was if Natticook attempted one drilling, he would automatically get the 3-year
Three-year
extension.
deal, yep.
So you might just want to,
Yeah, so he's down, he put the VFD in, he cleaned up all the work on Saturday, so it's looking really good down there. And the good part is, we could look at if the water is potable, we could probably connect Talent up to it also, because it's such a deep well,
should be,
which would be great to get off that water meter, and we could save some money. So we gotta look into that, there'll be some cost to connect from the wellhead itself to the building. But first, we gotta do water analysis and everything and make sure it's okay to use the water. But, being that you're 600 feet down,
And it's all sand.
yeah, so, it was good. They were concerned when they hit about 250 and they weren't getting a whole lot, but they just kept on going.
30 gallons an hour is, or a
Yeah,
minute.
it was a minute,
is-
that's more than they got up at Jeff Lane.
Right.
Jeff Lane used to be a pond up there, so
Yeah.
it worked out well.
Good.
And our next meeting is tomorrow night.
Nice. All right. Let's clean in. Planning Board, capital improvement, and everything else you do.
Yeah. Planning Board, our next meeting will be Tuesday, April 18th, 7 PM here at the Town Hall. We are expecting a large development that we're going to be looking at. Maybe we need to have a discussion. Last Planning Board meeting, we were discussing the northern part of town, southern part of town, potentially the residential part on 3A. So maybe we need a discussion to see if that's the scope of Planning Board, not about the land itself, but economic development. when I looked at the economic development chapter in the past, you had a board back in 2002 that did answer to the planning board, that did the economic development for the town. You had the circumventual highway potentially, you had the new airport going in, so that's why they moved the businesses to those parts of town. So, again, I just want to make sure, should the planning board be trying to look at that model again, or should that be a discussion higher up? I don't know the answer to that, but I think we need a discussion. So, I don't know, can we make an appointment for that, or get it on an agenda item, or how do you want to handle it? Maybe I'll ask you, how do you want to handle that? Do you want to have a?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to have a discussion, yeah.
So there was a group, it was called, and I don't know what the acronym meant, EDWG Subcommittee. That sounds like an economic development subcommittee. So they did take into consideration, like I said, the circumventual highway, which isn't here anymore, the future development. But they also said, recognize the economic systems extend beyond our local borders. There's complex relationships, around us and the other towns. And I'm not sure of the French word here, laissez-faire. Don't take that approach to economic development. It's outdated. Work with the stakeholders around the state. So again, I don't know who this group was in 2002. Maybe we can look at some articles somewhere. But again, I just don't know if we should be making new zoning laws that are affecting the economy, if that's what they should be or should not be doing.
So Thursday, there is a lunch at NRPC, and I believe, Mr. Curto, and I received they've invited town administrators and planning board chairs to go over, and, the state will be there, the state economic, department. I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's,
But maybe the planning board, it is their purview. I don't know, but if we could find out.
yeah, so I know NRPC is hosting it.
Yep.
So, I'll bring back anything.
But yeah.
Thank you.
But again, I just don't know if it's in a vacuum, if there's a town strategy that we maybe should look at. I don't know. So we'll just talk about that. Nothing ill planned about it. I just want to make sure we're following that. NRPC Executive Committee meets Wednesday, April 19th, 6 p.m., 30 Temple Street in Nashua. And the quarterly NRPC Commissioner meeting is June 21st, 30 Temple Street, Nashua at 7 p.m. The Capital Improvement Plan Committee, Jay can attend. I just don't know if he's budgeted for that. I know we have a budget for the year. So we would have to contact the school, right, the cable, make sure, because you said there was a meeting. I don't know if you meant April 20th or May 20th for the next SIP meeting. You just said it was the 20th, but I don't know what day, what month.
April 20th.
April 20th. So apparently we're having a meeting on April 20th. 3 nights in a row for me, huh? But we really have to have Jay get those numbers to us, and the methodology.
Okay,
That's all I have.
perfect. Heritage Commission, Mr. Gannon.
First meeting with Heritage is tomorrow night at the fire station.
Oh, great.
Budget committee's on the 20th of April.
Yeah, we have a meeting on the 20th, which I will go into right
See
now.
it there.
Budget Committee, yeah, we met, a couple of weeks back, elected basically the same officers that have been on the last couple of years. Talked a long time about bylaws, things like that, nothing really much to report. We're meeting again next Thursday on the 20th. And I sat in for Mr. Lynch on conservation, and we'll be discussing something of that tonight, I believe. I'm in the non-public. They elected, their officers, Jason Brennan, chairman again, Joe McGibbon is now vice chair. Diane Plansky is the secretary. It's just basically reshuffling the deck there. And, they have a lot of good stuff going on, talking about the fishing derby and some other things that they have coming up, so conservation's moving pretty well here. So that's all we have here.
You all right? April 20th budget is there.
So you probably
When it was proposed to CIP, it was not there,
Oh,
Community room then.
but, so I can reach back out to Mr. Curto and see if he wants to move it over.
Mr. Brunel just gave the thumbs up to the community room, so. So
Okay.
he's good from that venue if you want to use it.
Community room.
okay.
Now, what's the collision, budget? Doesn't
Budget.
somebody from budget sit on this committee? Carrie, or somebody?
Yes.
Yeah, he does.
So we're
Yes.
gonna have a conflict of
Yeah.
somebody not being at a meeting.
Well, CIP was supposed to be on Monday.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Used
I
to be
don't know
on
if
the
we're gonna
Mondays
wait
on the
another,
off of the selectmen.
Yeah.
and maybe it's the beginning of May.
Must be used to put in the off week,
So,
so the first and third.
yeah.
Not sure what's on the agenda for budget, but usually this time of year, it's a car wash. We're in and out in about 15 minutes. I could check with Chairman Sun and find out, so we might not need the room for that long,
Or we could,
or you could use the community room.
May 1st?
Is that Memorial, what's Memorial Day? Is that the end of the month?
End of the month, yeah.
Okay, so-
29th.
Is it already in the calendar? We already had scheduled, right?
No, it wasn't scheduled.
Let me just see. But we are there. It says either Board of Selectmen or Capital Improvement Plan, right?
May 1st.
So it is May 1st. Okay.
You go with that?
I'll let,
Good. Is there anything else that anybody wants to speak on before we go into a non-public? Okay. I'd just take a minute and thank Mr. Gannon for all his years on the Rec Commission. He had to give it up to sit here, but thank you for everything you've done over there.
Thank you. It was tough to give up, but hopefully they continue with the progress.
Yeah, very good. All right, well, that will conclude our meeting, public meeting anyways. We do have one item to address in a non-public session. Under RSA 91-A semicolon 3, comma 2D, consideration of the acquisition, sale, or lease of real or personal property where public discussion would benefit a party whose interests are adverse to the general public.
We also have one more that Ms. Queenan added.
And the one that Ms. Queenan added, so we have two items.
Yep.
And it's the
RSA
same
91.
RSA except 2B.
To be hiring of any person as a public employee.
Okay, so, with that, we'll entertain a motion to go into non-public.
So moved.
Second,
There's a motion by Mr. Weber, a second by Mr. Gannon. All those in favor, Mr. Gannon, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Mr. Weber?
I'm a yes.
And also an aye. Motion carries 400. We'll now go into non-public session. Everyone at home have a wonderful night. Enjoy this good weather this week. It's early summer. Be well, take care.